In the following video, we will explain how to take our quote request and we will enter the quote response that we have received now back from the suppliers. So to do this, we'll first navigate back to the quote request. So we'll click on purchasing in the left list. We'll scroll down to quote request and we'll click on quote request. So as in our previous video, we created a quote request for two suppliers, and when we selected submit, those requests were printed and emailed to those specific suppliers. So now the suppliers has given us quotes back, and now we need to capture these quotes. So we'll copy our quote request number and we'll navigate back to the navigation page by clicking on close page. Still on purchasing and quote request, we'll select quote request response. So to look for our specific quote request we created, we can, in the QR number, we can paste our quote number, and we'll see that once we select it, our quote request details will default in the details section. So now we can start by entering some information with regards to the responses that the suppliers have given us. So on the lines tab, we see the little supplier quote number grid. So if the supplier has given you a specific number on the actual quote, we can now type in this number and we can tab. We'll see that it jumps to the little BP field and we can click on the selection icon. We can then search for the two specific suppliers that we used in the quote request. If we've entered the BP, we'll see that we need to enter a validity date by clicking on the calendar. So this means up until when is this actual quote valid from the supplier. Once we've selected the date, we can tab to the line. And we'll see that the product, the description, the purchasing quantity will default. And now we can enter a specific lead time in the LT field. So how long does the supplier say, how long will it take for them to be able to deliver this product to us? So if we say it'll take 7 days and the price is at 250 per unit. We can tab and we can enter a specific comment if we need to. When we've entered the one supplier's details, we can now look at the supplier quote number grid again, and on the second line, you will see if we click in the second field, we'll see that the details are now empty again, as this will now create the second record for the second supplier. So we can enter their specific supplier quote number. We can tab to go to the BP field, click on the selection icon. We can now select the second BP. We can enter a validity date. So we can say that for this supplier, he says his quote is valid up until for 2 weeks. If we tab, we'll see that the product has now again defaulted with a specific quantity. Now we can enter a specific lead time for this supplier. We say that he can supply it to us in 5 days, but it might be a little bit more expensive per unit. If we tab, we can enter comments in the comments field. If not, we can tab and get out of the line. So now we've basically entered a supplier quote number for supplier 1 and a quote number for supplier 2 with their specific lead times, validity dates and prices. Once we are happy with this information, we can click on save. Now we have saved the quote request response successfully. You can see that the status is showing that the quote request response has been created. So for us to further process this quote request response, we need to submit this document to say that what we've entered we are happy with. So to do this, we can click on Submit from the right list. Once we've done this, the status changed to QRR, quote request response, fully approved, which means we are happy with the details, and now we can basically then select which supplier we are going to go for to place the order with. If you see that at any given time your supplier might have sent you a new quote number with a revised price, we can always come back and reopen the response before the stage as where we'd go and move this into a purchase order. So to do this, we'll see in the right section there's a reopen button. If we click this, we see that the status changes again to created, and now we can update these fields again. So for this example, we'll leave all details as is, and we'll just click on Submit to take it into the following stage. So the following stage will be quote selection. To do this, we'll navigate to close page, so we can go back to the navigation page.